How did my children go from quietly dividing my house to watching reporters wait outside their doors? They sent me to a hospice and treated my life like it was already closed. One call from my doctor turned their private betrayal into a public reckoning. But before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better. It started with Dr. Kellren showing me the scans. August 3rd, Thursday afternoon. The oncology office had that clean, suffocating smell hospitals always have. She pointed at the glowing spots on the screen like she was explaining a map. Pancreatic cancer, she said. Stage 3. We caught it earlier than most cases, but it's aggressive. I sat there in the vinyl chair and let the words settle. 53 years old. 28 years at the nuclear plant. Maribel gone 5 years now. And this. What are we looking at? I asked. Dr. Kellran respected directness. Always had. Treatment options exist. Chemotherapy, possibly radiation. Success rates vary significantly. Some patients respond well, others don't. Time frame? 6 months to 2 years, depending on response to treatment. Maybe more if we're fortunate. I nodded. Didn't cry. Didn't shake. Just absorbed it the way I absorbed everything else. Numbers, probabilities, facts. I'll need to think about it, I said. Of course. I'm scheduling you with our treatment coordinator next week, Elaine Porter. She'll walk you through options. I drove home in silence. No radio, just the hum of the highway and my own breathing. When I pulled into the driveway, Aaron's car was already there. So was Colby's truck. They were waiting in the living room when I walked in, both of them standing. Aaron in his pressed business casual, Colby in his work jeans and flannel. Dad, Aaron said, we need to talk. I set my keys on the counter. I just got back from the doctor. We know, Colby said. Dr. Kellren's office called us. That stopped me. Why would they call you? We're listed as emergency contacts, Aaron said. His voice had that measured corporate tone he used when he was managing something. They wanted us to know so we could help coordinate care. I looked between them. My sons. Aaron with his spreadsheet brain and his need to control every variable. Colby always following his older brother's lead, never wanting to make his own decisions. Sit down, Dad, Aaron said. I sat. Aaron pulled out his phone and a folder. Actual physical folder, legal size with printed documents inside. He'd prepared for this conversation before I'd even made it home from the diagnosis. We've been researching treatment options, he said, and we need to talk about practical matters. I haven't decided on treatment yet. Right, but we need to plan ahead. This is serious. Colby shifted his weight. We just want to make sure you're taken care of. Aaron opened the folder. First, the house. Mom's been gone 5 years. You're living here alone. If treatment gets difficult, you're going to need help. I can manage. Dad, be realistic. Aaron's voice sharpened. That diagnosis isn't something you just manage. We need to think about what happens if you can't take care of yourself. I'm not at the end tomorrow. No one said you were. But his eyes said different. They both looked at me like I was already halfway gone. Like the diagnosis had erased me and left behind something temporary. There are facilities, Aaron continued. Places that specialize in this kind of care. Hospice centers with medical staff, proper equipment. Hospice is for end-of-life care. Palliative care, then. Whatever you want to call it. The point is, you'll need professional help. Colby picked up where Aaron left off. Always the tag team. And the house, Dad. It's a lot to maintain. 4 bedrooms, the yard, all that upkeep. Maybe it makes sense to think about selling, or at least transferring it into a trust. A trust. For estate planning, Aaron said. So things are clear. No confusion later. Later. When I was gone. I looked at both of them. Really looked. Aaron had his mother's eyes, but none of her warmth. Colby had my build, but none of my spine. I appreciate the concern, I said slowly. But I just found out today. I need time to process this. Of course. Aaron closed the folder, but didn't put it away. We're not rushing anything. We just want you to know we're here to help. They left an hour later. I sat in the living room until dark, watching the shadows stretch across the walls. On the kitchen table, someone had left a brochure. Peaceful Transitions Hospice Care. Professional, compassionate, dignified. The word dignified made my jaw tight. I picked up the brochure and read it cover to cover. State-of-the-art facilities, 24-hour nursing care, private rooms with pastoral views, family support services. At the bottom, in Aaron's handwriting, Dad, worth considering. A. I set it down and walked to the window. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet. Lawns cut, porches lit, normal people living normal lives. My phone buzzed. Text from Aaron. "Let us know if you need anything. We're here for you." I didn't answer. Instead, I went to the study and pulled out the file cabinet. Found my will, found the deed to the house, found Maribel's life insurance papers and my pension documents. Everything neat, everything in order. Everything I'd organized after she passed. I spread them across the desk and started reading. The next morning, I called work. Told my supervisor about the diagnosis. He was quiet for a long time. "Holden, man, I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything. I'm just letting you know. I'll need some time for appointments, but I'm planning to keep working as long as I can." "Right. Yeah, of course. Listen, HR will probably want to talk to you. Just protocol stuff. Medical leave options and all that." I figured. "Take care of yourself, all right?" "Will do." I hung up and sat in the quiet house. Through the window, I could see Aaron's car pulling into the driveway again. He let himself in with his key. Didn't knock. "Hey, Dad, got a minute?" "What do you need?" He had another folder. Different one this time. "I talked to a few people. There's a really good hospice facility about 20 minutes from here. Peaceful transitions. They have an opening in 2 weeks." 2 weeks. I know it seems fast, but spaces fill up quickly. I figured it's better to secure it now, just in case. "In case of what?" "In case you need it." He set the folder on the coffee table. "I already filled out the intake forms. You just need to sign." I looked at the folder, didn't touch it. "Aaron, I haven't even started treatment yet." "I know, but if things progress quickly, we don't want to be scrambling. This way, everything's ready." "Ready for what exactly?" He met my eyes. Something flickered there. Impatience, maybe, or calculation. "Dad, we're trying to help you. I know this is hard to think about, but someone has to be practical." I stood up, walked to the window, watched a neighbor trimming hedges across the street. "I'm not signing anything right now," I said. "Fine, just keep it. Look it over. Talk to Dr. Kellren about it." He left the folder on the table and headed for the door. Stopped halfway. "One more thing. Colby and I were thinking it might be easier if we had access to your accounts. Just for bills and stuff, in case you're not feeling well enough to handle it." "I can handle my own bills." "Sure, right now, but later." "Aaron." I turned to face him. "I'm not giving you my account access." His expression tightened. Just for a second. Then smoothed back into concern. "Okay, Dad. Whatever you're comfortable with." After he left, I sat down with the folder. Read every page. The intake forms were detailed. Medical history. Insurance information. Emergency contacts. Aaron and Colby listed. Power of attorney designation. Blank, but with a sticky note. "Dad, we should discuss." At the bottom of the stack, a calendar. Someone had marked a date 2 weeks out. Single word. Transition. I closed the folder and put it in the drawer with everything else. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about the way Aaron had looked at me, the way Colby avoided my eyes, the speed at which they'd moved from diagnosis to disposal. Maribel would have seen through it immediately. She always knew when the boys were scheming. Even when they were kids, plotting to skip chores or bend rules, she'd catch it in their voices. "Your sons love you," she used to say, "but they love easy answers more." I'd laughed then. Didn't seem serious. Wasn't laughing now. Around 2 a.m, I got up and walked through the house. 4 bedrooms, the one Maribel and I had shared. The 2 the boys grew up in, now spare rooms with old furniture and boxes. The guest room that nobody ever used, downstairs the living room where we'd watched movies on Friday nights, the kitchen where Maribel had taught the boys to cook, back when they still listened, the dining room where we'd hosted Thanksgiving and Christmas and birthdays. This house held 30 years of life, and my sons were already calling it family property. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table until sunrise, watching the light change through the windows. By the time my phone rang at 7, I'd made a decision. Not about treatment, not about the house, about paying attention. The HR meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m, Monday, 4 days after the diagnosis. I showed up in my work clothes. Same navy coveralls I'd worn for 28 years, same steel-toed boots, same plant ID badge clipped to my chest. Calla Moss met me in the medical compliance office. She was younger than me by 15 years, professional in that corporate way where every word sounded rehearsed. "Holden, thanks for coming in. How are you feeling?" "Fine." She gestured to a chair. I sat. She sat across from me with a laptop and another folder. Everyone had folders now. I want to start by saying how sorry we are about your diagnosis. The company values your years of service, and we want to support you however we can. Appreciate it. She opened the laptop. Typed something. Now we need to discuss your medical leave options and how this impacts your position. I'm not taking leave. I'm planning to keep working. Her fingers paused on the keyboard. I understand that's your preference, but given the nature of your diagnosis and your role here, we have some concerns. What concerns? Your position requires physical capability and mental acuity. Safety protocols are strict. If your condition affects your ability to perform essential functions, it creates liability. My condition hasn't affected anything. I'm still capable. Right now, yes. But pancreatic cancer is progressive. Your doctor indicated treatment will likely cause fatigue, cognitive impacts, physical limitations. My doctor told you that? It's standard for these situations. We consulted with our medical team. I leaned back in the chair. So you're telling me I can't work? We're suggesting that resignation might be the best option, for your health and for the safety of the facility. Resignation. With full benefits, continuation, and pension protection, we're not terminating you, Holden. We're trying to make this transition as smooth as possible. Transition. That word again. Calla slid papers across the desk. This is a voluntary resignation agreement. It ensures your pension vests immediately, your health insurance continues through COBRA, and you receive a severance package. 6 months' salary. I picked up the papers, read the first page. The language was dense, legal, carefully constructed. What if I refuse? Then we'd need to place you on medical leave pending evaluation, which could take months. During that time, your benefit status would be uncertain, and there's no guarantee of position retention. So resign or get forced out anyway. I wouldn't phrase it that way. How would you phrase it? She closed her laptop. Her professional mask slipped just enough to show discomfort. Holden, I'm not trying to push you out, but the reality is this diagnosis changes things. The company has to protect itself, and honestly, staying here while you're going through treatment, it's not practical. I've worked here since before you graduated college. I know, and we value that, which is why we're offering this package. I set the papers down. I need to think about it. Of course. Take a few days, but we'll need an answer by Friday. I left the office and walked through the plant, past the control rooms and cooling systems and reactor cores I'd monitored for 3 decades. Guys I'd worked with for years looked away when I passed. A few nodded. Nobody stopped to talk. In the locker room, I cleared out my personal items, photos of Maribel, a coffee mug the boys had given me one Father's Day, 28 years condensed into a cardboard box. Terry Vaughn walked in as I was finishing. He'd been my supervisor for the last decade. Good guy, fair. Holden. Terry. Heard about the meeting. Yeah. He leaned against the lockers. For what it's worth, I fought it. Told them you're one of the best techs we have. But corporate made the call. It's fine. It's not fine, it's garbage. But I get why they're doing it. I closed the box. Because I'm a liability now. Because they're scared of lawsuits. Someone in your condition has an incident, company gets blamed. Doesn't matter if it's related or not. So they're cutting me loose. They're protecting themselves. Terry rubbed his face. Look, take the package. It's better than fighting them. And honestly, you're going to need the insurance. Probably. Definitely. He put a hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry, man. You deserved better than this. I carried the box to my truck and drove home. Aaron's car was in the driveway again, along with Colby's truck. They were in the kitchen when I walked in, laptops open, documents spread across the table. They looked up like they'd been caught. Hey, Dad, Colby said, too casual. What are you doing here? We were just going through some paperwork, Aaron said, estate planning stuff, making sure everything's organized. I set the box down. Whose estate? Yours. Eventually. We're just preparing. Preparing for what? Aaron closed his laptop. Dad, don't be difficult. We're trying to help. By going through my house while I'm at work. You gave us keys, and we're not going through anything. We're organizing. There's a difference. I looked at the papers on the table. Bank statements, insurance documents, the deed to the house. Where did you get those? The file cabinet in your study. It wasn't locked. Colby stood up. Dad, we're not trying to invade your privacy. We just want to make sure everything's in order. What if something happens and we can't find this stuff? Nothing's happening. Not right now, Aaron said. But you heard Dr. Kellren. This is serious. I walked to the table and gathered the papers. Neat stack. put them back in the file cabinet in the study. When I came back, Aaron and Colby were standing in the hallway. "We're just worried about you," Colby said. "Then worry, but stay out of my files." Aaron's jaw tightened. "Fine, we'll back off. But you need to start thinking about reality. Treatment's going to be expensive. The house is going to be too much to maintain, and you can't keep pretending everything's normal." "I'm not pretending anything." "Yes, you are. You're acting like this isn't happening, like you've got all the time in the world, but you don't." The words hung there, sharp, final. I looked at my older son, the kid I'd taught to ride a bike, the teenager I'd helped move into his first apartment, the man who was now standing in my kitchen telling me my time was up. "Get out," I said quietly. "Dad, get out of my house." They left, doors closing, engines starting, gravel crunching under tires. I stood in the empty kitchen and felt the silence press down. That night, I went through every drawer, every file, every document in the house, made copies of everything important: bank statements, insurance policies, medical records, the deed, my will. I put the originals back where they belonged and locked the file cabinet, put the copies in a safe deposit box at the bank the next morning. When I got home, there was a voicemail from Aaron. "Dad, I'm sorry about yesterday. We shouldn't have pushed so hard, but we really do need to talk about next steps. The hospice intake is in 10 days. Just let me know if you need help with anything." I deleted it. Friday came. Calamos called. "Holden, have you made a decision about the resignation package?" I looked at the papers on my desk. I'd read them a dozen times, consulted with my own lawyer, ran the numbers. Refusing meant months of medical leave with no pay and uncertain benefits. Accepting meant financial security and insurance continuation. Practical choice was obvious. "I'll sign," I said. "I think that's wise. Can you come in Monday morning?" "I'll be there." I signed the papers in Cala's office. She witnessed, HR director witnessed, everything official and legal and clean. "Your last paycheck will include the severance," Cala said. "Benefits continue for 18 months. Pension documentation will be mailed within 30 days. "Thanks. And Holden?" "I really am sorry." I nodded and left. In the parking lot, I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, watched people walk in and out of the building, going to work, coming from work, living normal lives. My phone buzzed. Text from Aaron. "Heard you resigned. Probably for the best. Let's talk about the hospice intake." I didn't answer. Drove home instead. Sat in the driveway, looked at the house. 4 bedrooms. Pastoral views. Family property. Inside, I made a list. Everything that had happened in the last 10 days. Everything my sons had said and done and arranged. Timeline clear as reactor diagnostics. August 3rd, diagnosis. August 3rd, evening. Sons already planning hospice and estate transfers. August 7th, HR suggests resignation. August 8th, sons going through my files without permission. August 14th, resignation finalized. August 23rd, hospice intake scheduled. 20 days from diagnosis to disposal. Efficient. I sat at the kitchen table with the list in front of me and felt something shift inside my chest. Not fear, not grief, clarity. The hospice intake was scheduled for 3 p.m, Tuesday. Aaron had confirmed it twice by text. I didn't answer either message. Instead, I spent the morning at the bank, verifying my accounts. Everything was still in my name. No unauthorized access. No transfers. Not yet. At 2:45, Aaron and Colby showed up at the house. "Ready, Dad?" Aaron asked. "For what?" "The intake appointment at Peaceful Transitions. I told you about it." "You told me. I didn't agree." Colby shifted his weight. "Dad, we already scheduled it. They're expecting us." "Then you should go. I'm staying here." Aaron's patience cracked. "Dad, stop being stubborn. This is happening. You need professional care, and we need to make sure it's arranged before things get worse." "Things aren't worse. I haven't even started treatment yet." "That's not the point. The point is planning ahead, being prepared. I don't need a hospice. Fine, call it assisted living. Call it whatever you want. But you're going to need help, and this facility provides it." I looked between them. Aaron in his business casual, already checking his watch. Colby avoiding eye contact, hands in his pockets. "What if I refuse?" I asked. "Then we'll have to pursue other options." Aaron's voice went cold. "Medical power of attorney. Conservatorship if necessary. We're not going to stand by and watch you suffer because you're too proud to accept help." "Conservatorship. If it comes to that, yes. The word landed like a punch. Legal control. My sons making my decisions. My life in their hands. You've already talked to a lawyer about this, I said. Not a question. Aaron didn't deny it. We've explored options. For your protection. My protection. Yes. I stood up, grabbed my keys. Let's go. Relief crossed Colby's face. Aaron just nodded like he'd won. We drove separately. Me in my truck, them following in Aaron's sedan. 20-minute drive through suburbs that all looked the same. Peaceful Transitions sat at the end of a cul-de-sac, surrounded by landscaped grounds and decorative trees. Professional, compassionate, dignified. Inside, the lobby smelled like flowers and antiseptic. Soft music played from hidden speakers. Everything designed to feel calm and final. Marvin Keats met us at reception. 50-ish gray hair, handshake like a politician. Mr. Ravel, welcome. I'm the facility administrator. We're glad you're here. Thanks. Let's head to my office. We'll go through the intake process and get you familiar with our services. We followed him down a corridor. Framed photos on the walls, residents smiling, families holding hands, everyone at peace with the inevitable. Marvin's office was small and organized. He gestured to chairs. We sat. Now, he said, pulling out forms. I understand you've been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Stage 3, is that correct? Yes. And your sons are here to help coordinate care. That's wonderful. Family involvement makes such a difference. Aaron leaned forward. We want to make sure Dad has everything he needs. Round-the-clock care, medical supervision, comfortable accommodations. We provide all of that. Our staff includes registered nurses, hospice-certified caregivers, and on-call physicians. We also offer physical therapy, spiritual counseling, and family support services. Sounds comprehensive, Aaron said. Marvin handed me a clipboard. Mr. Ravel, if you could fill out these medical history forms, and we'll need insurance information, emergency contacts, and your advance directives. Advance directives. Do not resuscitate orders, healthcare power of attorney, end-of-life preferences. It's standard procedure. I looked at the forms. Pages of questions about my health, my wishes, my final arrangements. What if I'm not ready to make those decisions? I asked. That's perfectly normal. Many residents need time to process. But we do require basic documentation before admission. Aaron reached over and took the clipboard. We can help with this, Dad. We know your preferences. Do you? Of course. We've talked about this. No, we haven't. After Mom passed, you said you didn't want extraordinary measures. You wanted to go peacefully. I stared at him. I said that about watching her suffer through those last weeks. Not about myself. It's the same principle. It's not. Marvin cleared his throat. Gentlemen, these decisions are ultimately Mr. Ravel's to make, but having family input is valuable. Aaron set the clipboard on Marvin's desk. What if Dad's not capable of making these decisions himself? What if the cancer affects his judgment? Then healthcare power of attorney would take effect, but that requires legal documentation and a physician's determination of incapacity, which we can arrange. I stood up. I'm not signing anything today. Marvin looked confused. Mr. Ravel, the intake process requires... I understand, but I'm not ready. I need time. Aaron stood too. Dad, we drove all the way here. The least you can do is fill out the paperwork. I didn't ask you to drive here. You scheduled this without asking me. Because you won't make decisions. Someone has to. It's my life, my decisions. Colby finally spoke up. Dad, please, we're just trying to help. I looked at my younger son. Saw the same thing I'd seen in Aaron. Not concern, not love, just impatience with an obstacle. I'm leaving, I said. Walked out of Marvin's office, down the corridor, through the lobby, out to the parking lot. Aaron caught up with me at my truck. Dad, wait. No. You're being unreasonable. I'm being myself. You don't get to decide when I give up. No one's asking you to give up. We're asking you to be realistic. Realistic would be starting treatment and seeing what happens, not planning my funeral before I've even tried to live. We're not planning your funeral. Then what do you call this? Hospice intake? DNR orders? Advance directives? You're already burying me. Aaron's face hardened. Fine. Do it your way. But when you can't take care of yourself anymore, don't expect us to drop everything to help. I never expected that. He walked back to his car, Colby following. They drove off without looking back. I sat in my truck and watched the hospice building. People moved behind windows, staff in scrubs, families visiting, everyone playing their parts in the script. Not my script, not yet. I drove home and called Dr. Kellren's office, made an appointment with Elaine Porter, the treatment coordinator. Time to actually fight this thing instead of planning around it. That evening, I went through the house again. This time, I photographed everything, every room, every piece of furniture, every family photo on the walls, documentation. Around 8, my doorbell rang. Colby stood on the porch, alone. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. He walked to the living room and sat on the edge of the couch. "Aaron's really mad," he said. "I noticed. He thinks you're making this harder than it needs to be." "Maybe I am." Colby rubbed his hands together. "Dad, I get it. You want to fight. That's good. But Aaron's just trying to plan ahead. He's always been like that." "I know what Aaron's like." "Then you know he means well." "Does he?" Colby looked up. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means your brother showed up with hospice brochures the day I got diagnosed. It means he scheduled intake without asking me. It means he's talking about conservatorship and power of attorney like I'm already incompetent. He's scared." "Of what?" "Of losing you the way we lost Mom. Of watching you suffer. Of not knowing what to do." "So he's taking control. So he's trying to help." I sat across from him. "Colby, I need you to be honest with me. What did Aaron tell you about the house?" Colby's expression shifted. "What do you mean?" "The house. What did he say about it?" "Just that it's a lot for you to maintain, that maybe it makes sense to transfer it into a trust or something, for estate planning." "Whose idea was that?" "I don't know. His, I guess." "And you agreed with it?" "I mean, it makes sense. Eventually." "Eventually when?" Colby stood up. "Dad, I'm not doing this. I came here to see if you're okay, not to get interrogated. I'm just asking questions. No, you're accusing us of something, and I don't know what, but it's not fair. Fair would be letting me fight this cancer before deciding how to divide my life." Colby headed for the door. Stopped. "Aaron was right. You are being unreasonable." He left. I locked the door behind him and stood in the quiet house. 2 sons, one pushing for control, one following along. Both convinced they were helping. I went to the study and pulled out the list I'd made. Added new entries. August 24th. Hospice intake attempted. DNR discussion. Power of attorney raised. August 24th evening. Aaron threatens conservatorship. Timeline getting clearer. I called Gerald Fawcett's office the next morning. He was a labor and pension attorney I'd worked with years ago on a contract dispute. Good guy. Sharp. "Holden Revell," he said when he picked up. "Been a while." "It has. I need to talk to you about something. In person, if possible." "Sure. How's tomorrow afternoon?" "That works. Everything okay?" "Not really, but we can talk tomorrow." I hung up and spent the rest of the day reading my pension documents. Every clause, every condition, every protection. By the time I went to bed, I had a dozen questions written down, and a growing sense that I was about to need answers to all of them. Dr. Kellren's call came on a Wednesday morning, 3 weeks after the diagnosis. I was sitting in the kitchen, drinking coffee, when my phone rang. "Mr. Revell, this is Dr. Kellren. Do you have a moment?" "Yes. I wanted to discuss your recent test results." I set the coffee down. "Okay. We ran follow-up scans yesterday. The imaging shows something unexpected." My chest tightened. "How unexpected?" "The tumors have shrunk significantly. In some areas, they're almost undetectable." I sat very still. "What does that mean?" "It means you're in remission. Early remission, but the markers are clear. Whatever's happening, your body is responding in a way we rarely see with pancreatic cancer." "I haven't started treatment yet." "I know. That's what makes this unusual. Spontaneous remission is extremely rare, but it happens. We'll need to monitor closely, run more tests, but right now, the cancer is retreating." I didn't know what to say. Didn't know what to feel. "Mr. Revell? I'm here. This is good news, very good news. It changes your prognosis significantly." "What about treatment?" "We'll still recommend a course of preventative chemotherapy, but the urgency is different now. You have time, you have options." "How much time?" "If this continues, years, possibly decades. We can't make promises, but the outlook is remarkably better than it was 3 weeks ago." I closed my eyes, felt something loosen in my chest. "Thank you for calling." "Of course. I'm scheduling you for another scan in 2 weeks. We'll discuss next steps then. In the meantime, try to process this. I know it's a lot." She hung up. I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the phone. Remission, not final. Not fading, not living on borrowed time. I should have felt relief, should have felt joy. Instead, I felt cold calculation settling into my bones. My sons didn't know yet. Dr. Kellren hadn't called them, hadn't updated the emergency contacts. This was mine to share. Or not share. I thought about the hospice brochures, the intake forms, the conversations about conservatorship and power of attorney, thought about Aaron's face when he said, "You don't have all the time in the world," thought about Colby going through my files, thought about the timeline I'd been building. I picked up my phone and called Gerald Fawcett. "Gerald, it's Holden. Can we move up our meeting?" "Sure. How's this afternoon?" "Perfect." His office was downtown. Small practice, 2-person operation. Gerald met me in the lobby. "You look better than I expected," he said. "Got some news today. Good news, actually." We went to his office. I sat across from his desk and told him everything: the diagnosis, the sons, the resignation, the hospice attempts, the remission. Gerald listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "Hell of a situation." "Yeah." "What do you want to do about it?" "I want to make sure I'm protected, legally, financially, that my sons can't force me into anything." "They can't, as long as you're competent, and you clearly are." "What about the resignation? Can they use that against me?" "How so?" "Say I'm not capable of making decisions because I gave up my job." Gerald shook his head. "Resignation for medical reasons isn't proof of incapacity, especially if you were pressured, which from what you're telling me, you were." HR said it was voluntary. Was it? Not really. They made it clear refusing would be worse. That's constructive termination. Possibly, but that's a separate issue. He pulled out a legal pad. "Right now, let's focus on protecting your autonomy. First, I'm going to draft a healthcare directive that explicitly names who does and doesn't have medical authority. Second, we'll review your power of attorney documents and make sure they're airtight. Third, we'll document everything your sons have done and said." "Why document it?" "Because if they try to pursue conservatorship, you'll need evidence that their concerns aren't legitimate, that they're acting out of self-interest, not concern for your welfare." I nodded. "What about the house?" "What about it?" "They want me to transfer it into a trust, for estate planning." "Do you want to do that?" "No." "Then don't. It's your property. They have no claim to it while you're alive." "What if they push?" "Let them. As long as you're competent and not under undue influence, they can't force you to sign anything." Gerald made notes. "I'll also want to talk to your doctor. Get her assessment of your mental capacity. That'll shut down any conservatorship attempts." She already called me competent in her notes. "Good. We'll get copies of that." I left Gerald's office with a list of action items and a timeline for documentation. Felt something like purpose settling in. That evening, I called Elaine Porter at the oncology office. "Mr. Revell, I heard about your results. Congratulations." "Thanks. I need copies of my medical records, all of them." "Of course. Any particular reason?" "Legal purposes. I want documentation of my diagnosis, prognosis, and current status." "I can have those ready by Friday." "Perfect." I hung up and added another note to my timeline. September 9th. Remission confirmed. Medical records requested. The next morning, Aaron called. "Dad, Dr. Kellren's office left a message saying they need to talk to us." "What's going on?" "I don't know. You'll have to call them back." "Did you have more tests?" "Follow-up scans, standard procedure." "And?" "And you can call the doctor if you want details." Silence on the line. Then, "Dad, are you okay?" "I'm fine." "You sound different." "Do I?" "Yeah, distant. Just processing things." "Okay, well, call me if you need anything." I didn't answer, just hung up. He didn't call back. Over the next few days, I collected everything Gerald had requested. Medical records, pension documents, correspondence with HR. Copies of the hospice intake forms Aaron had filled out. I also started recording conversations, not secretly. I told Aaron and Colby straight out. From now on, when we talk about my health or my property, I'm keeping records, for my protection. Aaron didn't like it. "Dad, that's paranoid." "Maybe, but it's legal." "It's insulting. We're your sons." "And I'm being careful." He stopped calling after that. Colby too. The house got quiet. No unexpected visits, no texts about planning ahead, just silence. I used it to prepare. Gerald drafted the healthcare directive. I read it 3 times, made changes, signed it, notarized. Dr. Kellren wrote a letter confirming my mental competence and my improved prognosis. I had it notarized too. I updated my will, made it explicit that no transfers of property would happen while I was alive, added a clause about undue influence. Everything documented, everything protected. On September 20th, I had another appointment with Dr. Kellren. The scans showed continued improvement, tumors barely visible, markers stable. "This is remarkable," she said. "I've rarely seen response like this." "What are the chances it comes back?" "There's always risk. But right now, you're in better shape than most cancer patients I treat. We'll keep monitoring, but I'm optimistic." "Can I get that in writing?" "Of course." She wrote a summary. Current status, remission, prognosis, favorable. Estimated lifespan, normal for age and health. I took the letter to Gerald. He added it to the file. "You're building a solid case," he said. "Case for what?" "For whatever comes next." He looked at me carefully. "Holden, you're not just protecting yourself. You're preparing for something." "What is it?" I thought about the timeline, about the speed with which my sons had moved from diagnosis to disposal, about the hospice brochures and the talk of conservatorship. "I don't know yet," I said. "But when I figure it out, I want to be ready." Gerald nodded. "Fair enough. Just remember, the law protects people who can prove their case. Make sure you can prove yours." I left his office and drove to a cafe across town. Small place, quiet, ordered coffee and sat in the back. At 4 o'clock, Ruth Calder walked in. I'd found her through research. Investigative health reporter for the regional news, specialized in medical ethics, patient rights, systemic failures. She spotted me and came over. 50-ish, sharp eyes, recorder already in her hand. "Mr. Ravel?" "Thanks for meeting me." She sat down. "Your message said you had a story, something about family and medical coercion." "I do, but this is off the record for now." She set the recorder on the table. "Off the record until you say otherwise." I told her everything, start to finish. Diagnosis to remission, sons to hospice to resignation. She took notes, asked questions, listened. When I finished, she sat back. "This is a hell of a story. Can you use it?" "If you're willing to go on record, yes. Medical coercion by family members is a real issue, especially when financial interests are involved." "I'm not ready to go public yet." "Why not?" "Because I want to make sure everything's documented. I want to make sure when this comes out, there's no question about what happened." "Smart." She tapped her pen on the notebook. "What's your timeline?" "I don't know yet. Weeks, maybe. I'll let you know." "And you're willing to use your real name? Your sons' real names?" "When the time comes, yes." Ruth smiled. "This could be big. National coverage, maybe. People need to hear about this." "I just want the truth out there." "That's what I do." She stood up. "Call me when you're ready. I'll make sure the story's told right." I watched her leave, felt the next piece falling into place. That night, I sat in the quiet house and looked at the calendar. 20 days from diagnosis to disposal. 47 days from diagnosis to remission. Time enough to see who my sons really were. Time enough to decide what came next. Gerald's office had a conference room with a long table and windows overlooking downtown. We met there on a Monday afternoon, 2 weeks after my conversation with Ruth Calder. Gerald spread documents across the table, medical records, pension statements, correspondence files, the timeline I'd been building. "Let's walk through this systematically," he said, "starting with your employment termination." I sat across from him. They called it resignation. "Right. But you were given a choice between resigning with benefits or being placed on indefinite medical leave with no guarantee of position or coverage. That's textbook constructive termination." "Can we prove it?" "We have the resignation agreement. We have your statement about what HR told you. If we can get testimony from anyone else who was in that room or who witnessed the pressure, even better." Calla Moss was there. The HR director witnessed the signing. "Calla might be willing to talk, especially if there's legal exposure for the company, but we'll cross that bridge later." He moved to the next stack. "Your pension vested immediately upon resignation, correct?" "Yes, that was part of the package." "Good. That protects your retirement income regardless of what happens next. Your sons can't touch that." "What about the house?" "The house remains in your name. No transfers have been made. Your sons have expressed interest in transferring it to a trust, but you haven't agreed. Legally, they have no claim." "What if they try to force it?" "They can't, not without proving you're incompetent. And we have 3 separate documents stating you're fully competent." He tapped the medical letters. Dr. Kellren's assessment, Dr. Morrison's psychiatric evaluation, and your attorney's affidavit. No judge would grant conservatorship with this evidence. I nodded, felt the weight of preparation settling. Now, Gerald said, let's talk about what you want to accomplish. Protection is one thing, but you mentioned going public. Why? Because what they did was wrong, and if they did it to me, they'll do it to someone else. Agreed. But going public has consequences. Your relationship with your sons will be permanently damaged. Your private life becomes public record. Are you prepared for that? Yes. Why? I looked at the timeline on the table, all those dates, all those calculated moves. Because they wrote me off the day I got diagnosed. They didn't wait to see if I'd fight. Didn't give me a chance to try. They just started dividing my life like I was already gone. And when you went into remission? I didn't tell them, though I wanted to see what they'd do. What did they do? Nothing. They backed off when I stopped cooperating, but they never asked how I was doing, never checked if the prognosis had changed. They just assumed the worst and acted accordingly. Gerald wrote something down. That's important. The fact that they never followed up on your medical status shows their interest wasn't in your welfare, it was in control. Exactly. Okay, so if we go public, what's the goal? Embarrassment, legal action, policy change. All of it. I want people to know what happened. I want my sons held accountable. And I want other families to think twice before doing the same thing. Then we need to be strategic. Gerald pulled out a fresh legal pad. First, we contact Ruth Calder and give her everything. Medical records, timeline, documentation. She writes the story, fact-checks it, presents it fairly. When? Soon, but we time it carefully. You go on camera, tell your story, show the evidence. It airs during prime viewing hours. Maximum impact. What happens after? Media coverage, probably significant. Your sons will have a chance to respond. They'll likely deny or minimize. But the evidence will speak for itself. And legally? That depends on what they say. If they defame you or make false claims, we can pursue action. If they admit to what they did, we use it to strengthen the public narrative. I sat back in the chair. This is going to destroy them. It might? Good. Gerald looked at me carefully. Holden, I need to make sure you understand. Once this goes public, there's no taking it back. Your sons will know you exposed them. Your family will be fractured. Are you absolutely certain? I'm certain. Then let's do it right. We spent the next hour planning. Gerald would coordinate with Ruth. I'd review the final story before it aired. We'd prepare for follow-up questions, legal challenges, media requests. Everything mapped out. Everything controlled. I left Gerald's office and drove to the cafe where I'd met Ruth. Called her from the parking lot. Ruth called her. It's Holden Revell. I'm ready. When? As soon as you can put it together. Give me a week. I'll need to verify everything, get statements, build the narrative properly. I'll send you the documentation tonight. Perfect. And Holden? This is the right thing. People need to hear this. I know. I hung up and sat in the truck, watched people walk by on the sidewalk. Normal lives, normal problems. My phone buzzed. Text from Colby. Dad, haven't heard from you in a while. Everything okay? I stared at the message. Thought about answering. Thought about calling him and telling him the truth. Instead, I deleted it. That evening, I scanned every document Gerald and I had compiled. Medical records, timeline, correspondence, hospice intake forms with Erin's handwriting, the resignation agreement, Dr. Kellren's remission confirmation, uploaded it all to a secure folder and sent Ruth the access link. She replied within an hour. Received. This is solid. I'll have questions, but this is a strong foundation. Over the next week, Ruth called 3 times. Each conversation lasted over an hour. She asked about specific dates, specific conversations, specific documents. She wanted to make sure every detail was accurate. I'm not just reporting what you told me, she said. I'm verifying it independently. That way, when your sons push back, the facts are undeniable. Have you contacted them? Not yet. Standard practice is to reach out before the story airs, give them a chance to respond. But I'll wait until we're ready to go live. When's that? Next Tuesday. 6 o'clock news. Regional broadcast, but it'll stream online. Probably get picked up nationally if it resonates. It'll resonate. I think so too. On Monday, Ruth called me to the studio for the interview. Small room with cameras and lights, professional setup. She walked me through the questions beforehand. Nothing surprising, just straightforward. What happened? When? How did it make you feel? What do you want people to know? The actual interview took 90 minutes. Ruth was precise. Empathetic, but not soft. She let me tell the story in my own words, then asked clarifying questions. At the end, she said, Is there anything you want to say directly to your sons? I looked at the camera. Thought about Aaron scheduling hospice intake the day I was diagnosed. Thought about Colby going through my files. Thought about both of them treating me like I was already gone. I want them to know I'm still here, I said. I'm still alive, and I remember everything. Ruth smiled. That's perfect. The interview wrapped. Ruth said the piece would air the next evening. She'd contact Aaron and Colby that afternoon to give them a chance to respond. What if they refuse to comment? I asked. Then the story runs without their side. Either way, the truth comes out. I drove home and spent the evening preparing. Charged my phone, made sure the doors were locked. Sat in the living room and waited. At 4:30 the next afternoon, my phone rang. Aaron. I answered. Dad, what the hell is this? What's what? A reporter just called me. Ruth called her. She says you're going on the news tonight to talk about how Colby and I tried to force you into a hospice. Is that true? Yes. Silence. Then, why? Because you did. We were trying to help you. You were trying to control me. That's insane. We were planning for your care. You had cancer, Dad. Terminal cancer. Had. Past tense. I'm in remission. Another silence. Longer this time. What? Remission, since September. The cancer's gone. Why didn't you tell us? Because I wanted to see what you'd do, and you did exactly what I thought. You backed off because I stopped being easy to manage. Dad, that's not fair. Fair was you showing up with hospice brochures the day I got diagnosed. Fair was you going through my files without permission. Fair was you threatening conservatorship when I wouldn't cooperate. We never threatened. Yes, you did. August 24th, in my living room. You said if I refused the hospice intake, you'd pursue legal options. Aaron's voice went cold. You recorded that conversation. I documented everything. And now you're going on TV to embarrass us. I'm going on TV to tell the truth. This is going to destroy our reputations. Should have thought about that before you tried to bury me. Dad. I hung up. Colby called 2 minutes later. I didn't answer. At 5:45, I turned on the TV. Local news. Anchors doing their opening segment. At 6:03, Ruth's piece started. My face on screen, the interview footage, Ruth's narration over B-roll of the hospice facility, the hospital, my house. Holden Revell was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in August. Within days, his sons began planning his end-of-life care. But when Holden went into unexpected remission, he discovered their concern wasn't about his health. It was about control. The story unfolded exactly as we'd planned. Timeline displayed on screen, documents shown. My words clear and steady. Ruth had even gotten a statement from Dr. Kellren. Mr. Revell is fully competent and in stable remission. There was never medical justification for the level of intervention his family pursued. At the end, Ruth presented Aaron and Colby's response. No comment at this time. The anchors came back on screen, somber, thoughtful. A troubling case of what some experts call medical coercion by family members, one of them said. We'll continue to follow this story as it develops. I turned off the TV and sat in the quiet house. My phone started ringing. Unknown numbers. Media requests, probably. I ignored them all. Instead, I walked through the house one more time. Every room, every memory. This was mine, my life, my home, my story. And I just made sure everyone knew it. The story went viral by morning. Not just regional news. National outlets picked it up. Cable news ran segments. Social media exploded with reactions. My phone never stopped ringing. Reporters, producers, random people wanting to share their own stories of family betrayal. I turned off the ringer and let it all go to voicemail. Ruth called around 9. I answered. Holden, this is massive. CNN wants an interview. So does NBC. There's a petition online calling for legislation against medical coercion. Over 50,000 signatures already. I'm not doing more interviews. Are you sure? This could lead to real change. The story's out there. That's enough. Okay, but if you change your mind, let me know. I hung up and made coffee. Sat at the kitchen table and watched the news on my laptop. Every channel had a different angle. Some focused on the medical ethics, some on family dynamics, some on elder abuse and financial exploitation. All of them showed my face, my sons' names, the timeline. At 10:30, a car pulled into the driveway. Aaron. I didn't open the door. He knocked, rang the bell, knocked again. Dad, I know you're in there. We need to talk. I stayed quiet. Dad, please, this is getting out of control. People are calling us, showing up at our houses. Colby's employer is asking questions. This has to stop. I walked to the window, looked at him through the glass. He saw me. Dad, come on, let me in. I shook my head. Fine. He stepped back, pulled out his phone, typed something. My phone buzzed. Text from Aaron. You've made your point. Now let's figure out how to fix this. I texted back. Nothing to fix. The truth is out. The truth is one-sided. You didn't tell anyone you kept your remission secret. You didn't mention that we backed off when you asked. You made us look like villains. You made yourselves villains. We were trying to help. You were trying to take control. Because you wouldn't make decisions. They weren't your decisions to make. The text stopped. Aaron stood on the porch for another minute, then walked back to his car and drove away. I sat down and opened my laptop again. Scrolled through news coverage. One article caught my attention, an opinion piece in a medical ethics journal. The author argued that families often overstep boundaries with terminally ill relatives, not out of malice, but out of fear and misinformation. The Revell case, the author wrote, highlights the need for clear legal protections and better communication between patients, families, and medical providers. Reasonable take, fair analysis. But it missed the point. This wasn't about misinformation or fear. It was about sons who saw their father's illness as an opportunity. Another article, this one from a financial news site. The hidden costs of medical coercion, when family members push for early inheritance. That one got it right. By noon, Gerald called. Holden, we need to talk about next steps. What next steps? Aaron and Colby's attorney reached out. They want to negotiate a statement, something that clarifies their intentions and reduces the public backlash. No. Holden, think about this. If they're willing to acknowledge wrongdoing, even partially, it strengthens your position, and it might calm things down. I don't want things calm. I want people to know what they did. They know. The whole country knows. But if you refuse to engage, it looks vindictive. Maybe I am vindictive. Gerald sighed. That's your right. But I'm advising you, as your attorney, that extending an olive branch here doesn't hurt you. It might even help. I'll think about it. Don't think too long. The media cycle moves fast. If you want to control the narrative, you need to stay ahead of it. I hung up and stared at the wall. Control the narrative. I'd already done that. The story was out. The evidence was public. People knew what happened. What more was there to control? My phone buzzed again. Text from Colby. Dad, please call me. I need to talk to you. I deleted it. That afternoon I went to the bank, checked my accounts. Everything's still secure. No unauthorized access. On the way home, I stopped at the grocery store. People stared. A few whispered. One woman approached me in the produce section. You're the man from the news, aren't you? Yes. I just want to say, you did the right thing. My sister went through something similar with our parents. Family can be the worst sometimes. Thanks. She walked away. I finished shopping and left. At home, I unpacked the groceries and turned on the TV. Another news segment. This one featured a panel of experts discussing medical autonomy and family dynamics. One panelist, a geriatric care specialist, said, "What Mr. Revell experienced is more common than people realize. Families often start making end-of-life decisions prematurely, especially when financial assets are involved." Another panelist disagreed. "But we can't assume malicious intent. Many families genuinely believe they're acting in their loved one's best interest." The moderator turned to the camera. Whatever the intent, the Revell case has sparked a national conversation about patient rights and family responsibility, and that conversation is long overdue. I turned off the TV. The conversation could continue without me. I'd said what I needed to say. Over the next few days, the media attention began to fade. New stories took over the cycle. My phone stopped ringing as much. But the damage to Aaron and Colby was done. I found out through a follow-up article Ruth wrote. Aaron had been placed on administrative leave from his job pending an internal review. Colby lost a major contract after the client saw the news coverage. Both of them had deleted their social media accounts after receiving thousands of hostile messages. I read the article and felt nothing. No guilt, no satisfaction, just a kind of empty clarity. They'd treated my life like a transaction. Now they were facing consequences. Fair trade. On October 15th, exactly 2 months after my diagnosis, I had another appointment with Dr. Kellren. The scans were clean, completely clean. "I've never seen remission this complete," she said. "Whatever happened, your body essentially reset itself. What are the chances it comes back?" "Always a risk, but statistically, you're in a better position than most cancer survivors. We'll keep monitoring, but I'm very optimistic. So, I'm going to be fine. Barring unforeseen complications, yes, you're going to be fine. I thanked her and left the hospital. Drove home through streets that felt different now, lighter somehow. At home, I walked through the house again, noticed things I hadn't before, the way afternoon light came through the kitchen window, the creak of the floorboards in the hallway, the smell of old wood and memory. This place was mine. Not because I'd fought my sons for it, because I'd built a life here, and I wasn't done living yet. That evening, Gerald called one more time. Holden, Aaron's attorney, contacted me again. They're asking if you'd be willing to meet, just you and your sons. Private conversation, no lawyers, no media. Why? They say they want to apologize. They can apologize in writing. Holden. No, Gerald, I'm not meeting with them. I have nothing to say. What if they're genuine? They had 2 months to be genuine. They weren't. Fair enough. I'll let them know. I hung up and sat in the quiet house. The sun was setting. Orange light filled the living room. Somewhere outside, kids were playing. Life continuing. I thought about Maribel, what she would have said about all this. Probably something about forgiveness, about family, about not letting anger consume me. But Maribel wasn't here, and the family she believed in had shown its true face. I didn't need forgiveness. I needed peace. And for the first time in months, sitting in my house with the truth laid bare and my life reclaimed, I felt something close to it. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mr. Ravel? Yes. This is Channel 7. We're doing a follow-up piece on your story. Wanted to see if you had any updates or final thoughts. No updates. No final thoughts. Nothing you want to add? I thought about it. About everything that had happened. About the timeline and the betrayal and the public reckoning. Just one thing, I said. People should pay attention to what their families do when they are vulnerable. Not what they say, what they do. That's powerful. Can we quote you? Yes. I hung up. Outside, the sky darkened. Stars began to appear. The house settled into its night sounds. I made dinner, watched the news, went to bed early, slept better than I had in months. And in the morning, when I woke up, I was still here, still alive, still standing, exactly where I belonged.